Hello and welcome to Module 1 Introduction to Bash, Scripting for Cybersecurity. I just want to say for this course I'll be using Debian as my operating system. I highly recommend you do. It's easier to follow along and it's extremely reliable, simple to use. Just a great all-rounder. This project was created after completing my first year at uni and it was designed to deepen my understanding of Bash as a whole, but also to deepen yours. I've documented everything thoroughly, and all of the resources, scripts and notes are available on my GitHub. It's in the description. I've got absolutely everything on there. Help guides, so much documentation. So your support would be honestly greatly appreciated. Feel free to follow me there, ask questions and engage with the material. You can find my link to the GitHub below in the description and the link to download the virtual machine. Thank you very much. And I want to say this isn't very easy to learn. Stick with it, you'll get there. I believe in you. Thanks for watching. Okay, welcome to the desktop environment for Debian. This is the graphical user interface. We won't be using it very much, but here it is. This is a graphical installation, as I might have stated already. But let's not worry about this too much right now. Let's just get the terminal open. So in the top left, you'll see activities. Click activities, then the 9 dots, then the terminal icon. Here's the command line interface, or the terminal. This is where we will be doing everything. It's a very powerful tool. It's great for automation and scripting, as you'll learn down the line. But for now, we'll just start with something simple. So we'll start with PWD. Stands for Print Working Directory. This is essentially just going to tell us where we are in the file system. So when I enter it, you get /home/max. This is where I am. So I'm in my home directory just now. Automatically, when you open the terminal, you just enter the home directory. This is where all my files, so all of your files as well, this is where everything lives, pretty much. So let's actually try to find out what's inside of this directory by typing ls. ls stands for list, and essentially when this command is entered, it's going to list the contents of that specified directory. Well, no, the current directory that I'm inside, or a specified one, but we'll get onto that later on. So when I press list, you'll see all these subdirectories appear. How I know they're subdirectories is because they're in blue, which means basically home directory is the parent directory, and all of these desktop documents, downloads, music, etc. are all just subdirectories within the home directory. So if we want a little bit more information, we can type ls-l. This will provide us with a long listing, which essentially just provides more information. So when we enter this, we can see a bunch of new stuff, a bunch of letters, my name, and times of their creation. So the D at the start stands for directory. So this states it's a directory. The RWXR, XRX stuff, that is permissions. So R stands for read, W for write, and X for execute. Max is the owner, so me, and the max again is the group owner, which is also me. And then you see the time that it was created. Okay, so let's move on to, let's change our directory. Let's change into a directory with more contents. So we're going to type CD, stands for change directory, and then follow it by the target directory that I want to change into. So essentially we're moving from home to the etc directory. So cd change directory /etc. We're changing into the etc directory. So when I press enter, you'll see the prompt doesn't look the same now. You can see /etc. It basically means I'm just inside of the etc directory. Now if I do ls-l again inside of this directory, then you'll see there's a lot more stuff. Now, the etc file contains all of the fundamental files for the operating system. So as you see, you can see all of the files. You can see some don't have an X, which means they're not executable to me. I don't have those permissions, and some don't have a D, which means they're not a directory. All the blue words have a D because they are directories. That's how they're color coded in Debian. But the black, they're just files. Okay, so to go back home, And this goes for anywhere, it doesn't matter where you are in the file system. You can just type cd and enter, returns us straight home. We can even type pwd to prove it that we're back home. Okay. So let's now make our own directory. So I'm going to start by typing ls to get a list of what's currently in the home directory as of now. And then I'm going to make a new directory. The command to make new directories is mkdir, make directory, is what it stands for. And then we just enter the directory name. So we'll just call it lab1. So make dir lab1, and if we list again, we can now see lab1 is now a new directory, subdirectory under the home directory. And if we type in ls-l, you can even see the time it was made. You'll see 8:17. That's the time this directory was made. So let's use the clear command to kind of get rid of this clutter for now, because it's kind of getting in the way. Clear command won't delete anything or anything like that. It just removes the stuff from the terminal, so it doesn't look so cluttered and it's easier to read. It looks less overwhelming. So let's list again. So we now know that we have lab1 there. Let's change into the lab1 directory. So we just type cd lab1. We are now inside the lab1 directory. Okay, now let's make a file. We are going to use the echo command, which is essentially just the print command of bash. And we're going to just put hello world and then use the greater than symbol to redirect it into a new document. We'll just call it file1, lab1 file1, simple. So essentially what we're doing is we're printing the word hello into this file. If we enter, then that goes through. We can now see this file by using the nano command. Nano is a text editor, so you can use this similarly. You could just type nano file1 and then it would open file1 in the text editor. Or you can type echo hello world and then put it into file1, then nano into file1 to see what's there. So if we nano file1, it will open the text editor and you can see our text is there. And we can just write Control X to get out, simple. So let's now remove this file. So to remove a file, rm or remove file1. It's gone. Simple as that. ls, it gives you nothing back, so there's nothing in this directory. So now what we can do is we can go up a directory. We can do that by typing cd ... Essentially this just puts us up one. Simple. So because we're in, it'd be easier if I showed you. If I did print working directory, you'd be able to see that we're in home/max, that's lab1, but we want to get back to home. So we can do cd ... and that puts us up one directory. So now we're in home/max. Simple. And we can even remove the lab1 directory as well by typing rm dir. Similar to make dir, remove directory, then lab1. Then we list again, and it's gone. It's as simple as that. Okay, so let's try the whoami command. So whoami essentially tells you who you are as a user. I'm Max. That's been specified. But if you were to type things later on in cybersecurity, typing things such as like sudo whoami, and if it gives you root, then you know you have administrative privileges. It could be very useful when you're penetrating systems as well to determine whether you have the necessary administrative rights or if you need to go up a level. So let's try combining commands. Combining commands is very important. It's very useful over time as well. It helps with efficiency and it's good to know overall. It's much easier than typing one at a time. So let's start by typing cd/tmp. So we're changing into the tmp directory. Then I'm going to put a semicolon. The semicolon just means that we're separating the commands. So it tells the operating system that's one command, but now everything after this is another command. The thing to note with the semicolon is essentially the semicolon commands will continue to execute regardless of whether the previous one was successful or failed. It's important to keep this in mind when we continue with this, but for the semicolon, all commands just execute regardless of if they were successful or if they failed. So cd/tmp, so we've changed into the tmp directory. Let's then list the contents and then print our working directory. And if I execute this, all of those things will happen in accordance. So we have first changed into the tmp directory, then we list the contents, and then we have print our working directory, which is /tmp. So let's just type cd to go back home, and let's try something else. So cd/tmp, and then we'll type two and symbols. Now, when we do this, we're basically saying only do the next command if the previous one was successful. So let's just print something like success. Simple as that. So basically what we're telling the terminal is change into the tmp directory, and then if that's successful, then echo the word success. There you go. So we can see /tmp, so we know we're in the tmp directory, and we have echoed the word success. Very simple. So let's cd back to the home directory again, and let's use the other version. So we can do cd to a directory that doesn't exist, for example. So we'll just say not real place. Okay, simple. This directory doesn't exist. We know that because we've already done a listing of our home directory, and this wasn't a subdirectory. It doesn't exist. So we'll then put two lines. So basically what this means, what we're telling the terminal now, is if the previous command failed, then execute the next command. So again, we'll just do the same thing, echo, it worked. So what we're saying, again to recap, is change into the not a real place directory, and then echo, it worked. Okay, so what we've been given is an error message saying not a real place doesn't exist, pretty much. Bash couldn't find it. And then because it failed, it then proceeded with the next command, echoing that it worked. Straightforward. So let's try stringing some of these together. So we'll start by change into the downloads directory. We'll start with that. Then we'll put a semicolon. Now what we know from semicolons previously is that the next command will execute regardless of output from the first one. Okay, so then let's do cd into, I don't know, not. Doesn't exist, okay? So if it's going to fail and I want it to fail and I want it to execute the next command after failing, I put two lines, and that signals to the terminal that if change cd not doesn't work, execute the next command. So then we'll do echo success again, and then we'll do two and symbols, basically meaning that if it's able to echo success again, then we will, I don't know, cd back home and then print the working directory. Why not? So you can see basically what we're saying is change into the downloads directory and then change into the not directory. But if that fails, then print success again and then go back home and then print the working directory. And if we execute that, we can see we went into the downloads directory and then cd not didn't exist. So it says no such file directory, meaning it didn't exist, which means it failed, which means the next command was executed. So it prints success again, and then we go back home and we print our working directory. Straightforward as that. So to wrap this up, I'm going to go over some shortcuts that you definitely need to know. Such as if we're going to cd into the downloads folder and say, for example, you forgot the name, you can press tab to finish that command. Now, this is useful, but obviously I recommend if you're doing this on like crucial tasks, make sure you know what you're typing. use Google, but if you're in an exam or something like that, this could come in handy. Another thing is to cancel processes. Now, you're going to need to know this one, especially when you're writing scripts that take a long time to execute, and you need them to stop. So when we ping Google, this is basically going to go on for ages, right? Just press Control C, and that will cancel that process. And then lastly, we'll just press Control L just to clear the screen. So instead of typing clear into the terminal, we can just type Control L.